In the day and age of metas and time to kills, I've never really understood the connection it has to Deep Rock. And well, I still don't. That's why I don't do videos about it, even though it's detrimental to my channel because that's all everybody seems to care about. I mean, sure, the Shard Diffractor's time to kill is insane and it's a lot of fun to use. But is one gun or any one build truly the best way to play Deep Rock? A mining game with cooperative mechanics against NPCs? Well, with someone that has completed over 50 elite deep dives with so many different builds, relying on the cooperation of my teammates to do it, it would be safe to say that you're not using a meta build. You're just using a really good build to its full potential. Look, I main a stun build with very little ammo and time to kill, but with some strategy I can clear anything and make most dreadnoughts a joke to defeat. And more importantly is I'm having fun using a build that's not even made for damage. I think playstyle and individual skill level has a big part to play in what you're going to be effective with, because let's be honest, people do different things with the same guns and have different results. So that's why Deep Rock Academy focuses on trial and error and using your own individual results to determine what is best for you. So I've been testing out the new Shard Diffractor in as many situations as possible, because there's nothing worse than watching a video about how awesome a gun is and then all it takes is a Mactera Plague or a Swarmageddon to make it useless. And here's what I've found. While shooting things with lasers is incredibly fun and effective, I'm left struggling with what combinations are best to complement each other. I decided to try out one of these electricity combos, with this specific point for more damage to enemies in an electrical field. You're basically just electrocuting things and switching to your secondary to do even more damage. And hey, it definitely does way more damage, and at times seemed like a perfect combo. All it would take is some Mactera or Spitters for me to take my eye off the ball and die. This is why extensive experience with these builds is required in Deep Rock. If a gun hasn't been tested against a Praetorian Swarm, a Dreadnought, a Tyrant Weed, and every warning type, then you're not getting the full story on these builds. You're getting someone's short experience in who knows what hazard level, usually with Bosco, claiming it's a meta. Now, this build is still viable. The constant switching between both weapons will result in better overall ammo consumption, using up all you have evenly as to not run out of your primary. This is very useful for group elite deep dives. And to be honest, my accuracy is not going to measure up to other people's, especially people on PC, so they may have way better luck with this than I do. Now, the first experience I had with this gun was actually this Volatile impact reactor overclock.
Oh shit!
Oh my god.
That was nuts.
Wow, dude, that was head on, like not even,
What the hell?
not even in the ass. What the fuck?
What?
I wonder if this hurts, if they stand on this shit. Oh, it did. Oh wow, that is effective.
Oh,
Just a fucking beam.
just exploding. Oh my god.
I think there's a hole somewhere.
Ah!
Oh shit!
There's a hole somewhere. Smokey falls into it immediately. I think there is. You might be right about that. Ah! Ah!
Stay more towards.
I had a lot of luck with this build right off the bat. I used this Loki gun build, making it easy to take care of most enemies and choose my moments with the Shard Diffractor. Straight up, this is a successful build. However, I would prefer if the magma trail lasted longer due to how much ammo you run through with this weapon. Even though this was a great experience, I'm left wondering what else this gun can be used for, and what part it has to play in my overall effectiveness. I tried using an AoE build with a shotgun that's effective against single targets, and although it was really effective against groups of enemies, I had the ammo maxed and it still wasn't enough. It just left me thinking about how the grenade launcher or breach cutter would perform in these same situations. I mean, I really only managed to survive because I was jumping from platform to platform while fighting, which is a great way to keep your enemies just far away enough as they take longer to get to you. This is something I always used to do and will definitely increase your survival time. But as far as the build goes, I'm not convinced just yet. And this brings me to my top 3 overclocks and gun combos, starting with this gem of an overclock right here. This is probably my number 1 suggestion for most people trying to use this gun effectively, and here's why. The extra ammo allows you to have some extra options here on the first section, but the best part is the charge speed. Having it ready at a moment's notice with a lot of ammo just works if you have a moment to do some serious damage to a single or multiple targets. I find you can use this a lot more frequently than some of the other builds I've used. I didn't use the extra mag because the entire mag will fire every time you use it, and if you use a bigger mag, it's going to burn through ammo even faster. So this way I can just use it more often. I don't have to hoard my secondary like some of the other overclocks I used. And when testing this in my Hazard 5 missions, it really went well with a lot of different primary weapons, which is why I am recommending it to you guys to try. I've just been using this gun long enough that I know I usually die here in this situation. As I said earlier, out of all the builds I've used, I do recommend playing around with this overclock. I think you'll have a lot of luck with it. And as for your primary, as you can see, I use the Loki a lot with this weapon, but I've also used the shotgun to great effect. It just takes me longer to clear multiple enemies with the shotgun, and that's just because I can't aim for shit, so. Next, I thought I would finally try out this DPS overclock. Damage, damage, damage. And I had no idea what I was in for. Obviously this thing is crazy fun and has its moments, but how do you use this thing in a group Hazard 5 setting consistently? First tip is to switch weapons when you're done killing the enemy or you need to move. The reason is because you can't move when you're overcharging it, but if you switch weapons you can immediately move out of the way when it matters. Next is to pick your moments, and I mean really pick your moments. Use this thing like a Kamehameha wave from DBZ. I wouldn't even use it on Praetorians, to be honest. That's how little ammo this has. If the moment calls for it, then sure, but trust your teammates and your primary weapon for most enemies. Next is to have a good primary weapon that you can rely on, something you can take out an entire group with if you don't have a grenade ready. It may be different for everybody, but through all my testing, the Loki still comes out on top for being able to quickly and efficiently take out groups or single targets. Its versatility and auto-aim functions saved my life and carried me until those moments where I was faced with an oppressor or a menace that I could kill in seconds. With unstable overclocks, all you have to do is make some major adjustments on how you normally play to make it a viable build. There were times where I had to pull back and let my team do the killing because my guns just weren't useful at that moment with the limited ammo that I had, and it's worked consistently in tons of Hazard 5s and even an Elite Deep Dive. But speaking of adjusting your gameplay for the build, I've saved my personal favorite for last. Now I tend to like using really weird builds, but I'm having fun and I'm making it work. This is the Endothermic Platform Explosion Overclock. Look, I know this is a strange one, and I'm not on here trying to convince everybody to use it, and it took a lot of failure before I started running this in group Hazard 5 missions. Firstly, the tough part of this build is the fact that you can't actually see the AoE damage you're doing via platforms. You just have to trust that it's there. Another thing is that you'll notice that it kills most enemies before the platform can even explode in the first place. So it's a little tough when I want to blow up a group of enemies and instead they all melt with a pointless after explosion. They should add a feature where you press X to override it and then you can explode a platform should you need to. But that may never happen, so I will just adjust as best I can, learning the time frames of these effects. And also you would think that you'd have to always have this set up beforehand, but surprisingly you don't. As long as you have your platform set up this way, you can easily shoot out a platform, then shoot your platform, and do tons of AoE damage really quickly, at close or long range. Another struggle is shooting platforms when you're surrounded. It just doesn't feel right. It feels like doing anything but running or shooting at the bugs will end up in certain death. But to my surprise, this thing melts enemies. And if you have a lure, then even better. I try to put mine lower in the ground with some cover over it to keep it going for longer. Put some platforms down and this works great. The next thing is your turret and turret whip, which was extremely important here. There are just a lot of bugs that aren't worth using your laser gun for. This is why I use a shotgun that can quickly get rid of any immediate threats, and use turret whip for that extra AoE in moments of need. That way I can stay alive long enough to use the platforms when the situation calls for it. Don't get me wrong though, don't hoard your secondary here. That will result in failure. This build truly feels like one where you really have to utilize every single thing you have to make it viable. And if you need a walkthrough on Turret Whip, then check out my Engineer Masterclass Part 2 in the description. Now the ultimate test for this build was when I joined a Hazard 5 mission with teammates down. This is when I would have picked at least 5 other builds over this one, but it still worked. 샤트.
I got leeches.
I let it grab you. I was watching. I just let it grab you. All I had to do was pull a trigger, and it was dead. I had it.
And you wonder why I thought you were clowning me when I was hearing the fucking words earlier. God.
I just let it grab you.
I had all my locks on it. Okay, like all I had to do was let go of my trigger, and it was dead. It was fun to see it like chase after you.
Fun for who?
Oh shit.